this was some interesting all-22 to watch this morning. Just because, again, what we were talking about, I was looking to try and figure out is there something that Lovie Smith did that was different than what Dak normally doesn't see. We talked about that with the cover two and how they played him. A lot of zone coverage in this game, Gavin. A lot of zone coverage in this game. And what happens to you when they play a lot of zone, the receivers, tight ends, it's kind of tough to the route combinations that they were running. I didn't feel like that they kind of had a really good feel. The final drive, of course, had a really good feel for that and early in the game. But as the game wore on, there was a lot of time where spacing I didn't think was particularly good with some of the routes that they had. You mentioned about the running game. I felt like that they could have ran the football and had been effective doing it. I felt like they were a little bit more creative, maybe not down on the goal line with some of the things, the fourth down runs and stuff. I'd like to have seen maybe an option or something at 1st and 8 down there. Maybe you could have, instead of just trying to kind of hammer that thing in, they didn't block. They didn't block the backside on the 4th down play, and that kind of got them in a little bit of trouble there with the tackle. But overall though, it was interesting because, like I say, I'm always looking for how our team's going to play Dak. And I kind of learned that cover two stuff seems to be the thing. That and the quarters coverage seems to be the thing that they're kind of dealing with right now. That's kind of been a little bit of a problem for them. And we'll see going forward. We all know that Terrence Steele tore his ACL. That's going to be a big loss for these guys. But there's some people that you talk to within the organization that will also tell you, though, at backup you might have a better player. You might have a better player when Jason Peters over there playing the right tackle spot.
What a great story of him getting involved yesterday with him not wanting to go in and hurt the team, and then as he's watching the game, the coach talked him into it.
Yeah, he was in a situation where, he primarily works on that left side. And we've talked about it before when you switch positions at tackle, it's the different footwork. It's maybe a little bit different how you play with your eye, how you see the defender coming up the field, hand placement, your punch, and all those things. There's a lot of things that go into it. And for him to go over there and get those opportunities, I thought he did a really, really nice job. And it's so comforting to know also that Zach Martin is inside. Because if you make some kind of mistake, Zach Martin is going to be able. They handled the twist stunts there at the end. They were able to pick up, the Texans were trying to rush 4. They finally tried to bring some pressure with some blitzes. They weren't able to get guys home. I didn't feel like particularly even to start the game or as the game wore on that Tyler Smith and Steele played exceptionally well. I didn't, especially in the passing game. It felt like to me these guys tend to give ground, and I think the Texans understood that. Okawamu, the rushers, I think they understood that they could take these guys deep into, and I think there were a couple of times there where Dak was kind of throws were away, but it was close. It was close to a bad play, a sack, or a pressure, the tip balls, things like that. That they had to deal with.
The one he got his arm hit on.
Yeah, that was a clean win inside. I mean, you had upfield rush, inside rush, ball just he played 28 plays. I talk about the 2 plays that were really, really bad that might have cost you that game with the way that he allowed the pressure on that. So. But they fixed it, and that's something that is.
You think they score that game-winning drive if Ball's still out there?
I have my doubts because what happened was I don't feel like that Ball was a very confident football player at the end. I felt like there were things that he was doing during the game that it wasn't like just hanging on kind of a thing. It was he was into the pass sets, he was into the run block and stuff. But that once you see a tackle lose his confidence, then you're kind of like, okay, on the inside rush, he oversets the outside. And now you're worried about the inside rush, so you set down hard inside, and now the rush comes around the end. They had him. They had him at that particular place. So I kind of feel like, though, that they did the right thing by making that happen. I felt like when you looked at on defense, this loss of Jonathan Hankins is going to be huge for the Cowboys. And when it comes to run defense, he's dealing with the pec injury. The fourth down tackle that he made was incredible. As literally being blocked, but going almost onto his back, reaching up and bringing the ball carrier down on top of him to make sure that it's that they don't get the first down on that particular play. He is the way that he's played at defensive tackle. I think you couldn't have asked for a better get when it came to going out and going and grabbing a guy that fit perfect with what they're trying to do.
And how long is he going to be out?
That's what we're trying to figure out right now. I've reached out to some people in the organization, but he's got the strained pec. That's something that could be long-term right there that you have to deal with. So hopefully by the end of our show, I'll have some updates on some of these guys. Dorrance Armstrong was in a walking boot too. I felt like that, they really didn't get much pass rush in this game. And I think the Texans did a really nice job. What happened was Parsons was rushing against Laramie Tunsil a lot in this game. And I felt like that Laramie Tunsil is their best pass blocker. So you ask, well, what's happened is with Parsons, disinterested, hurt, banged up, what? No, I mean, he just was going against the Texans' best pass rusher. Kind of felt like that the Texans did a good job of handling. They should have been able to take things attack this inside group a little bit better with Green, the defensive line. Oso Digizua, I thought, had a pretty good game when it came to the run defense and him getting up the field. There was some pressure with him in the pass. They just couldn't get anybody home on that particular. But if you look at what Parsons was playing, a lot of it was against Tunsil, and that was the best matchup right there. I felt like that Kelvin Joseph got a little worked on that long ball. To me, that looked like a drop. On the tape, it looked like the ball hit, and then there was some movement there. Unfortunately, though, they gave him the completion on that play. Or Hewitt, I thought, played pretty well. I thought he drove on the third down play, got him off the field. They need to play him in more press coverage, Gavin. They need to walk him up on top and let him play with a little bit more press coverage there.
All righty, Krusty's Corner every afternoon at 2:40. We do have breaking news. The Cowboys are securing veteran wide receiver help in the form of T.Y. Hilton. His agent's telling Cats Bros Sports, this is from Ian Rappaport. He's on a visit with the team and should provide help down the stretch in the playoffs. That's from Ian Rappaport. Unable to play up until this point this year. How much can he help, Brian?
Yeah, I tell you what, and I'll tell you what, I want to give Bobby Belt credit because Bobby Belt knew that the Cats brothers were coming in, and they was trying to figure out if there was a tackle with the Cats brothers that they were looking at, but it was T.Y. Hilton. Bobby called me and said, hey, keep an eye on this one if you hear anything. And he was absolutely right. He was way ahead of the game. Yeah, Rappaport reporting it right now. We'll see. I'm interested to see what happens with the situation with James Washington, because he only played a couple of plays. He had the drop, had one of the particular plays where he was on the field as a blocker for one of the running plays that they were able to have in the game. I wonder if there's going to be a swap out here. We'll see. Right now they got a pretty kind of a large group there at wide receiver.
Yeah, they do. I feel like T.Y. Hilton is a great route runner, a quick underneath guy, hopefully someone who can appear in windows and be open, precisely where Dak needs him. Last year in 10 games, I think he caught 37 balls for 331 yards, 14.4 per reception. So I think he's still got something. Obviously, it's not prime T.Y. Hilton, who was in the conversation as a decent number one wide receiver, but as a number 3 now, another guy for the Cowboys to look at. Does it mean Odell Beckham Jr. is out?
I would say so. Yeah, I would say so. They've probably moved on because he's not going to be ready likely for about 8 weeks.